Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
I love people as I meet them one by one. People are just wonderful as individuals. You see the whole...
My great aspiration, my greatest ambition is to be so good. Now, in that way, I'm tiresome, as I suppose, to live with, because I want to be a fantastic human being.
I am the greatest.
We're not disputing that, Cassius, but how does Sonny Liston feel about it?
He can't feel but one way, and let's take everything I say and like it. Because February the 25th, I'm going to take back my job. I'm the champ. He's no champ. He's a tramp.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their own strange machines. How did they get up there?
What's going on, people's? Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Let me get this correct. Thought I had this right before. There we go. How's everybody feeling today? Happy Wednesday. You know what time it is. We had a lot going on. That's probably mostly, well, I ain't gonna say probably, it was mostly on my end. I had a lot happening in the last couple of hours before the stream. It's a whole story. I won't kill y'all with that. I'm glad to be here with y'all. I hope all is well. Thursday is right around the corner. I got Sydney in the building. This is one of my favorite segments of the week. Shout out to my poets, writers, content creators. You know the drill. Let me bring Miss Sydney up. Y'all already know the energy. Like, repost, let the people know that we're on. Questions, comments, leave them in the comment section. They will be highlighted on the screen. Sydney, good evening. I hope all is well with you.
Hello. It is a good day. How are you doing?
I am well. It could be a little cooler outside. I'm not really a fan of this warm weather.
I feel that. At least it's almost winter, sort of.
I'm probably one of the only people that is happy about that.
My mom does too. She's originally from Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont area. So she loves the snow. She hates the heat. We always joke because whenever we'd go on vacations, I would be bundled up. My uncle, who's from Arizona, would be super bundled up. My dad would be in like jeans and a t-shirt because he was from Montana originally. And then my mom would be in shorts and a t-shirt.
Hey, look. Sign me up for the snow. I hope we get all the snow that we ain't got in the last 7 years.
I got to see snow 2 or 3 times when I was in Illinois, and that was enough for me.
Was it that bad out there?
It wasn't actually that thick, but driving was terrifying because for the first time I slid on the road. I was like going around a turn, and then like the butt of the car just like swung out, and I was so freaked out because I'd never had that happen before. And then it was never really thick snow, but it was just like the inconvenience of it, and then it being so cold. My kid liked it, but yeah, I don't want to live in it. I'll visit. It's cool when I get to visit and am wearing the outfit and everything, but I'd rather not live in it.
Respectfully. Well, look, this is your day. I know you got a lot that you want to cover here, so I'm going to give you the floor. I will be doing what I do. I'll be popping in and out, yeah, the floor is yours.
This one I'll also be breaking up more into a conversation since there is so much information. I don't want to just like throw it all at you, because I can definitely do that. I could put on a whole hour-long rambling talk, but yeah, there's a lot to it, so I just want to make sure that I break it up a bit. But speaking of winter and speaking of ice, we're going to be talking about the poles, Arctic and Antarctica. For those of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Sydney. I have a background in environmental education. I also have a background in just science in general. I have my bachelor's in psych, my master's in environmental education. And one of my favorite topics is talking about climate change. It's an issue that is going to affect all of us. And it's really, really important for us to talk about it because very, very clearly people are not trying to make an effort to solve this. There's some efforts out there, people trying to make a difference, but so far the industry is not behind this. The government is not behind this. And we really, really need public action on climate change because we are headed into very, very dangerous territory, and arguably we're kind of already in it. So today I thought would be a good opportunity to talk about the polar regions and why they're important, because I think people underestimate the consequences of losing the ice on our poles. So in general, the poles are helpful in reflecting the light of the sun, which is why they're so important for the cooling processes, because white surfaces reflect light, and because it's also water absorbs heat and energy better than like rock and stuff like that, because it can kind of like diffuse and stuff like that. But it helps cool the earth. Having this snow cover, having this white sheet on both the top and bottom of the earth is very helpful with reducing the amount of sunlight that is absorbed into our atmosphere. Just to clarify, in case anyone doesn't know, Arctic is on top, Northern Hemisphere. The Antarctica is at the bottom of the globe. The Arctic has more animals there. There's more, like, there's a tundra, there's grasses, there's some plants. There's more animals up there, like Arctic foxes. I think there's wolves up there. Antarctica is mostly known for their like penguins, and they have polar bears. Not as many animals, but a lot of birds. Fish, obviously. The other reason why the Arctic and the Antarctic are important for us is because cold water holds a lot more nutrients, and a lot of the plankton and small microscopic creatures that our bigger animals rely on, that the entire food web relies on, live in those areas. These parts of the world are very important hunting grounds for a lot of different species, whales, seals, dolphins, as I said, seabirds. I said we had polar bears, all sorts of smaller animals. So both of these regions do host a wide variety of creatures. There's, I think, 7 species of penguins, and 5 or 6 of them live in Antarctica alone. And almost nowhere, and pretty much nowhere else in the world besides like zoos. So besides hosting a wide variety of life and reflecting the sunlight, the poles are also super important because they lock water in the ice. And the more water you have locked in the ice, the less water you have in the atmosphere and the less water you have on the ground. If I remember correctly, Antarctica, if all of the ice on Antarctica melted, it would raise sea levels by about 40 feet. Let me double check to make sure I got my numbers right. I don't want to give you wrong information. So while I look this up, the reason why climate change is so impactful on Antarctica and the Arctic is because rising sea temperatures and rising air temperatures help melt this ice faster and faster. And melting ice is very much on a exponential type trajectory where the more ice melts, the faster the ice melts, because older ice is a lot harder and more stable, because over time ice loses the salt content inside the ice, and so it becomes a lot more hard and harder to melt. I think it also tends to get colder, and having that really thick ice is important to us. Let me see. So for the Arctic, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. If all of the glaciers and all of the water on the Arctic ice sheets and the Greenland ice sheets melts, the global sea level would rise by more than 195 feet. That's crazy. I thought it was only like 40. I think Antarctica itself is 40 feet, and I think the Arctic is between like 20 and 30 feet. But yeah, it's 195 feet is crazy even to me. I did not actually realize it was that much change in sea level. But yeah, changing the sea level is going to be vastly damaging to our societies. Not only do we have hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people living along shorelines, along rivers, along lakes, all of which will see a rise in their quantity, because a lot of people automatically are like, oh, sea level, it just affects the ocean, but it doesn't. It affects the entire water table, and so you will probably see rises in lake levels. You'll see rises in rivers, more frequent flooding, and also as you melt more of the ice that's locked inside these two places, you're also going to see it. It's not going to be ice anymore, so it turns into water and enters the atmosphere. And with more water droplets in the atmosphere, you end up with more rain, more storms, more flooding, and more rain. Like if you raise the temperature of our atmosphere, you're going to get more rain, less snow. Snow accumulates on both the Arctic, Antarctica, but also on glaciers. But recently, instead of it falling as snow, we've had rain falling on the frozen Arctic and the frozen Antarctica. So that actually contributes to melting even faster. Because if you rain on ice, it's going to start melting. So it's very alarming that we're starting to see rain in the Arctic instead of snow. The Antarctica is not as affected by rain at the moment, but it is having more frequent rain than it had before. So yeah, in general, the melting sea ice is going to have a dramatic impact on our planet. Just one of the best examples I can think of is there's photos comparing the past of I think it's either North or South Carolina, showing the original coastline, and then it shows, I think it's like 10 years to now. And a lot of those houses are almost underwater, if not already gone. And that is with only, I think, 6 inches. So far, it has, let's see. It has risen 10 centimeters since 1992. Over the past 140 years, depending on where you're at, the global sea level has risen 8 to 9 inches. So we're already losing coastline and homes at 8 to 9 inches. So imagine what 195 feet would be. Obviously, that's like the way worse scenario. We're not at that point yet, but it is unfortunately in the realm of possibility at this point, especially because all of the data, all of the predictions that scientists have been creating in the past don't actually reflect what's happening now. They're underestimating what's happening today. And a lot of these processes are happening much, much faster than they ever would have expected. The picture that is on the screen right now shows the maximum during the winter time for Antarctica. It's the summertime, I believe, because of the seasonal differences. They have the minimum, which is during their version of the summer when it's more warm, when they get more sun. And then they have the maximum where they have the fullest extent of ice during the coldest parts of the year. And both the Arctic and the Antarctica and Antarctica are seeing record low maximums. So even at the point where we should have a lot of ice, we're seeing very, very little. This chart right here, it's kind of hard to tell with the since it's kind of tiny, but along the coastline of if like you see Russia on top of the globe, and then you see North America, if you look at that sliver where it's red and green and blue and whatnot, though, that's really thick ice. That's like 5 meters to about 3 meters of ice. And let's see meter, so that's 9 feet. 9 feet of ice, that is a lot. That is 3 meters, and then 5 meters is 16 feet. So it's between 9 and 16 feet for the ice that we had in 2012. But now we're seeing ice that is only, let's see, translate, a foot, a single foot. And this ice is new ice, less than a year old, and on the 2024 image. And as I said, the younger ice breaks more easily. There's more salt content. It's not as cold. And it's, as you can see, it's pretty covering pretty much the whole area. And yes, Chef, it does cause destructive weather patterns. As I said, once it melts, it releases more water into the atmosphere, and coupling that with higher temperatures. Because once you start melting this ice, not only do we add more water to the atmosphere, but you're also getting faster heating because you no longer have that reflective property. So the combination of the more water and higher temperatures would contribute to more severe storms. The hotness contributes to turbulent weather. It causes storms, or it causes the evaporation to happen faster, so you have higher quantities. Like the heat allows higher quantities of water to exist in the atmosphere, and so when it's time for it to rain, you get a lot more rain than you would have before. So not only does it cause more turbulent wind and churning of weather, more likely to produce like tornadoes and straight line winds and stuff like that, but you're also seeing higher quantities of rain in shorter periods of time. So this definitely will have an effect on our weather. And then it also will contribute to our oceans and their currents. As I talked about, I think it was last week, as you warm the ocean, it slows down a lot of the circulation that's ongoing in the ocean. And as I said last week, this circulation helps drive nutrient kind of transfer. It affects like temperature mixing and stuff like that, because you want to have both warmer water and colder water, because that allows like the cold water will sink, the hot water will rise, and with upwelling you get cold water being dredged up from the bottom, and all of these are important to creating currents in the ocean. And another aspect of on the topic of storms and currents, the currents kind of help drive some of the storms. It's a combination of the atmospheric currents and the ocean currents, but it does help drive storms. And if we have a higher temperature ocean and less current activity, you're going to see more sluggish storms. So you're going to see something like which one is the one in Houston that sat on Houston? It was like in 2023, I think. Hurricane. Forgot which one it is, but there have been a couple actually. But the warming of the ocean will allow the storms to, and also the increase in saturation, water saturation, it makes the storms go much slower. So you're going to have storms that are able to get much wider, and also they're going to sit longer over the land. And so instead of a hurricane passing over in like 12 hours, you might have a storm sitting on top of you for like 24 or 48 hours. This happened in multiple recent storms. This is definitely something that's becoming more common and more severe, as we've been seeing in many parts of the world, in Europe, in Asia, in the United States, in South America. We're having massive flooding and storms. They're in Spain, they had 100-year storm. On the East Coast, we've had like 500-year storms. We've had some locations that have had 1 in 1,000-year storms. It's becoming more and more frequent that we're seeing these storms impacted by what we're doing to our climate. So that is one of the aspects that's going to affect us, the weather. but also the sea level. And this is also going to affect our food sources. As I said, a lot of animals rely on these locations for food. Plankton, oh my gosh, my child's coming upstairs. Food is very abundant in this region. And if we lose the temperature, like the low temperature oceans that we have here, we're going to lose a lot of these planktonic species that are extremely important for all of our creatures, our whales, our fish, our birds. And as we all know how food chains work, if you remove the bottom of the food chain, nothing else is going to be able to do that well. And we're probably going to see rashes of extinction, which is already on the table for a tremendous number of species. I think depending on the category of animals, like 60 to 90% of animals are threatened or endangered. It's a very serious situation, and it's something that we really, really need to pay attention to as the public, as politicians, as professionals, because this type of event, it could be very, very dangerous. And right now we are seeing a lot of these signs. Besides the imagery that I'm showing you right now, they've also just recently, this was in the last couple weeks, this is actually what inspired me to do this episode. They did a deep scan of like a sonar or something like that, kind of like an x-ray almost, of underneath the ice shelf in Antarctica. And they found that there's basically just lakes everywhere, all over underneath the ice. And even though they didn't say it directly in the article, just from my own knowledge and background, that is very, very dangerous, because it lubricates the ice sheets and it allows them to move out into the ocean faster. And when you have water touching ice from below, it helps melt it from below, and you're also melting it from the top. So it's going to rapidly increase the amount of melting. And as I said, even you can see it with an ice cube. If you put an ice cube out on the counter, it takes a couple minutes, 5 minutes or so, for it to start melting. But once it starts to shrink, it melts faster and faster. And that's exactly what we're going to start seeing, and have started seeing, that this collection of water on the ice and underneath the ice is very, very rapidly starting to allow the ice to flow out to sea. Additionally, as the ice gets thinner and thinner, as we're also seeing, it allows the ice to break up more easily and go out into the ocean. We just had, I think it was over the summer, one of the largest calving events that we've seen yet. Antarctica, I believe. It was in May. It was an ice shelf that was 147 square miles. And just for some perspective, let's see. So Philadelphia is about that size. Or San Jose, California, Dublin, Ireland, those are all similar sized. So we're basically losing a city-sized amount of ice off of just Antarctica in just one event, which is wild. Calving, if I didn't define it, is when ice breaks off of the main continent and goes out to sea, kind of like a gigantic iceberg. And as it does that, it breaks up more quickly. Once you release it into the water, it is going to break into pieces because, number one, there's less mass and volume, so it melts quicker and quicker as it gets smaller, like I said. And it's also floating out away from where it's cold, and so as it kind of gets farther into warmish water, relatively, it will start to break up faster, melt faster. So we've been seeing this multiple times. I think just from my own memory, there's probably been at least 3 very large calving events in like the last 5 years alone. And these are, one, very dangerous because they do increase the sea level, especially when they're larger pieces of ice. But it also, once you break it off, it allows the ice behind it to start moving closer to the ocean. And sometimes, if that is, as I said, lubricated by water, if there's water underneath, it can more easily just like slip out into the ocean. There's one part of Antarctica that they're quite concerned about because if it breaks, it'll allow a whole bunch of what has accumulated on Antarctica to go out into the ocean. And I think, if I remember correctly, it could raise sea levels by at least a foot if all of that goes on out into the water. So these incidences should not be taken lightly. People definitely don't realize the consequences of melting ice sheets, and everyone always thinks about like greenhouse gases and emissions and like it being hot and us having really bad weather, but people don't really give much thought to the bottom and the top parts of the world and the immense impact that it can have on us. And I think a lot of people don't connect climate change to our food sources, because as the climate changes, as it gets more hostile for animals and other creatures to live in, we ourselves are going to be affected. We are not going to have as much food available to us as we did before. And we're also going to see collapses of ecosystems that are very, very important for us. So yeah, this is a super, super interesting science, but it's also incredibly important to get this information out there. I don't think a lot of people know anything really about what's happening in these locations. They might know it's melting, but I don't think people truly understand the gravity of the situation. What do you think so far?
I say abracadabra. I'm back. Yes. Sorry, I had to make sure my audio was functioning, because sometimes I hit the button and I forget that I don't take it off. To be honest, dang, I don't want to sound like that doomerism person, because I'm getting ready to go there. We are very disrespectful to the land. We don't really have much love for our planet. So the things that we see happening is a direct effect of that lack of concern or urgency or need or desire to want to see it healthier. We spend or consume most of our time smoking, drinking, consuming snacks,
Internet.
the internet, you name it. Everything that we are utilizing has a direct effect on the earth. But me coming from just the outside looking in. All right, you see somebody dump something on the ground, big deal. You see somebody keep doing it over and over and over for a number amount of years, and then now it becomes a problem. I guess it goes with the territory with anything. Eventually, you're going to get tired of seeing something over a significant amount of years, especially if you've never noticed it before. Like, we walk past homeless people all the time, but it's become normal to people. It's like, oh, it's just a person that's out here on the street, but you don't really comprehend, nor do you really understand how rough that is and how much that actually affects a person, the damage it does to them mentally, emotionally. There's a whole different world out there when you're not under the roof and have that foundation to keep you warm or safe from the elements outside. It's no different than dealing with our drinking water or the trees or the vegetables. Is anything really natural anymore? Is everything filled with chemicals? Are our fish and our food supply going low? Is it healthy to even consume any of this stuff like that anymore? Like, all of it has a chain effect. I'm really nervous about the acceleration and decline of the ice melting in general, just because I know even if we don't physically feel the effects of it, eventually you're going to start noticing it. Like you said, everything is going to start getting higher. You're going to notice the rivers are getting higher. If the rivers get higher, are the locations in which these spaces are holding this water, are they going to be able to maintain that level of saturation? Is the ground surrounding that area going to be able to soak in all of that extra water that's coming in? Is the plants that's in those areas going to be able to maintain it? You think about corrosion, mudslides, the salt water mixing in with the fresh water. It's a lot. It really is. I know it doesn't really seem like much. Not even addressing what you spoke on about how it affects like the currents itself, like the breeze, and how the sun gets sucked. So the sun, how can I explain this? So a lot of that ice protects us from getting cooked, basically. Like, I always looked at, all right, so if I wear black is like a no-no in 60, 70, 80 degree weather. If you're trying to minimize getting cooked out here, you wear white, because white is more likely going to give you a little more protection. You'll still be hot, but it won't be as bad, so everything works in cohesion. Like, there's a firmament or a protective shield that's supposed to protect us from radiation from the sun and the things outside of the Earth's atmosphere. It's no different than you breaking down the ice and chopping down all the trees, and there's no way for the air to get filtered and purified from all the smoke and all the toxins that's in the air. The earth has all of the remedies, all of the cures that we could possibly ever need. But the pharmaceutical companies and these big media platforms don't want you to know about it. Everything is synthetic. Everything is ran through a machine or process. It's like,
and those data centers produce a tremendous amount of pollution. Like, people always think, oh, it's the cars, oh, it's the trucks. It's the plants, it's the refineries, it's these data centers that use so much electricity. Electricity is one of the biggest producers of carbon dioxide because of how you have to produce it. You have to use oil and gas to run a lot of these systems. The hurricane that I was trying to remember earlier was Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey was a category storm, was the first category storm to hit the U.S. since 2004. And it basically lingered for days over Texas. And it had 130 mile an hour winds, and it dumped 50 inches of rain on about over 7 days. That's over 4 feet. That is insane. It affected thousands of people. It even affected some of our family members. They live right near Houston. It caused flooding that displaced more than 30,000 people and destroyed over 200,000 homes and businesses. 17,000 people needed to be rescued, and 89 people passed away. And this is a poster child for the type of storms that we can expect to see. That, as well as the hurricane. I'm really bad with names today. The one that just struck in 2024 that affected North Carolina. Hurricane Helene. That one was not a stagnant storm per se, but the fact that it went the direction that it did made it so dangerous. And it also, just like Harvey, dropped a tremendous amount of rain in a short period of time. I think let's see, this one was also quite deadly. It killed over 250 people. Let's see how much rain this one dropped. Doesn't say here. Oh, let's see. Doesn't say how much rain, but it does say that one of the rivers almost got over a foot. Oh, here it is. 10 inches of rain fell on the Cayman Islands. In Cuba, they got 8 inches of rain. And the United States, they got, let's see. Oh, Mexico got 240 millimeters of rain. Georgia. Wow. Georgia alone got 11 inches of rain, almost a foot. Florida got 14 inches of rain. South Carolina got 21 inches of rain. North Carolina got 19 inches of rain. There was one city in Appalachia that got 30 inches of rain. So, yeah, this you can kind of imagine what might happen if this stuff intensifies. This image that's on the screen right now is what the Earth would look like if the Arctic and the Antarctic areas melted. So you can see Me in California, I'd probably be underwater. You'd lose the western coastline of Mexico. Louisiana would be a lake or a saltwater inlet. We'd have additional Great Lakes. We'd have some new lakes here. Bye-bye Florida. Bye-bye East Coast. There's also other images of South America and Europe, and all of them have lost coastlines. Antarctica is insane to see without ice, because it's literally just like mountain ranges in the middle of the ocean. That's one of the crazy things, is underneath all of that ice on Antarctica, there are literally mountain ranges. So you can imagine how much ice and snow there is for you to be able to cover an entire mountain range. And I'm pretty certain one of those mountains is one of the tallest mountains on our planet. Let's see. It is they have the highest mountain is 16,000 feet above sea level. You can see the peak of it coming out of the ice, but it's largely covered in snow. So yeah, that gives you an idea of how much ice there is for it to cover entire mountain ranges. So for Chef, are you asking about what it would look like if we were in an ice age? Just to clarify. So we've always kind of shifted back and forth between, this is, before I get to that question, this is a really good image showing all of those lakes that I was talking about. 231 lakes were found underneath Antarctica in this recent scan. You can see all of those in green. The red little things are the mountains. But yeah, you can see the collection of water underneath this ice, and that's not good. As I said, it's going to lubricate the ice and allow it to shift out to sea really quickly. The Ross ice shelf is one that they've been concerned about, as well as on the kind of bottom part of Antarctica, there's another one, I think it's called the Weddell ice sheet, and both of those have been showing signs of instability. So Earth, because of a couple things, one, our rotation around the Earth shifts. We don't exactly go around the sun the same way. We kind of like, if this is the sun, this is the Earth. We don't really go around the Earth. We kind of, and that's why we have seasons, because when you're here, you have the summer. When you're out here, you have the winter. So we go through stages. Also, I forgot. The Earth also will tilt on its axis, and as it tilts, it'll show more sun to one side or the other. And when we are more if the Arctic is more pointed at the sun, it'll have more melting. If the Arctic is tilted away from the sun, it'll have more cooling. So it's relative to where we are in terms of rotation, as well as our tilt and our distance from the sun. So we switch back and forth between warm periods and ice periods. One of the famous warm periods was when we had the dinosaurs. And I think also the Cambrian period was a time that we had really warm weather, and there's an explosion of life during that time, the Cambrian explosion. But when we have these ice ages, that's when we start to shift more towards cooling. And depending on the length of time this is allowed to go on, you could see the entire globe being covered in ice. There was a point in time when the Earth was in a stage. Oh, can it go that way? Go that way. Snowball Earth. Let me double check when it was, just to make sure I get it right. It was 200 million years ago. Yeah, ish. Let's see. 10. Okay, so this glacial period lasted about 3 million years. And it got to the point where the entire globe was just frozen snow. Like from if you were like out in space, it would just be a white ball. And as I said, it lasted about 3 million years, and it the word for the reflectiveness is called the Earth's albedo. The albedo effect is how much light we reflect back into space versus how much we absorb. And if enough snow and ice accumulates, just like we can have runaway global warming if we have too little, if you have too much snow and ice, you can actually have runaway cooling, where you rapidly see cooling over decades/centuries. Most likely centuries, probably not decades per se. But yeah, you'd have a much rapid cooling. When you have colder temperatures like that, obviously you're going to have less life on the planet, because it is harder for life to exist in a cold world versus a hot world, unless it's like really, really hot. But it allowed all this water to be locked away, and so there wasn't a ton of rain. There wasn't really severe storms. The areas around the equator were not warm at all, or very warm in comparison to what we see today. And it also affects even like rocks and stuff like that, because with more rain, you get more erosion. So that also contributes to that sea level rise. When you have more rainstorms, more flooding, you're going to wash more sediments out into the ocean. And so, number one, the sediments accumulating in the water, just like if you have a glass of water and then you drop a rock in the glass of water, it's going to overflow out of the glass because you're displacing the water with that rock. You're also going to have the destruction of that land, the flattening of that land, and in that way, you're also going to see sea level rise. So it's crazy how complicated sea level rise is and how many factors affect it, with a lot of people not even understanding what it is in general. The climate science is very, very interesting when you look into it. But it's sad. A lot of people don't know anything about the poles at all. Let's see. Find any more interesting facts. The carbon dioxide levels necessary to thaw the Earth have been estimated to be 350 times what they are today, which is about 13% of the atmosphere. When the Earth was completely covered in ice, carbon dioxide could not be withdrawn from the atmosphere by release because since the Earth was covered, as I said, you didn't have any weathering of the rocks. Weathering of rocks also releases stuff into the environment as well. So that's another factor that adds to that sea level rise. As you erode away the land, you're also going to be releasing more carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, which is going to even speed up warming. That's why understanding all of these processes is so important, especially now. because a lot of these are runaway type mechanisms. Once you start the process, you're going to snowball faster and faster, just like a ball rolling down a hill. As you go more down the hill, you're going to go fast. You're going to roll faster and faster, and that's what we are seeing right now. So far, we have, I think there's 7 different feedback systems that we have either stopped or like irreparably damaged so far. And that type of stuff is going to allow this process to accelerate. So, and that's really where we are right now. We are at the beginning of the exponential curve. So we're already seeing it where since 2018 or 15, something like that. I think 2015. Since 2015, every single year has been hotter than the one before. And that, to me, is the indication that we are in the exponential growth phase, that we are only going to see things get worse every single year until we actively do something. And the fact that we're already, like, Spain's flood always sticks in my mind because of this one particular image. If you ever look, you can always look up the pictures. There's this one particular image of like hundreds of cars just piled up inside this like waterway because they had all been on the road and the water just like quickly swept through. I think over 100 people died in that. But these are the types of things that we're going to start seeing. We're going to see towns inundated with massive amounts of rain in short periods of time. We're going to see flooding. We're going to see places that are perpetually inundated with water. Like Florida is already seeing that. It's called daytime flooding, where it doesn't even need to rain. They're just, because of sea level rise, because of everything that's happening, there's just perpetually water on the streets or in the parks or in people's yards and stuff like that. So these are things that are going to accelerate as we move towards 2020 into the future. And let me see where it was. So right now, their estimate for 2050 is about 12 inches. So within the next 25 years, we can expect to see over a foot of sea level rise. And that is just a estimate. And in my opinion, I think that's a low estimate. I think it'll probably be at least 3 to 5 times worse than that. But that's just my own perspective. There's, even within the science community, there still isn't a tremendous amount of agreement. There are some scientists that think that we're over exaggerating. It's not going to be that bad. But there are other scientists that are very scared. I've heard of some that have like left the whole career arena because they're so frustrated with how little action and how little concern there is. So this is something that is very much worth paying attention to. And especially if you live near oceans or rivers, it's incredibly important for you to pay attention to changing rain patterns and flood levels. Because as I said, as the sea level rises, it'll also raise the water table as well under the land. And so that will allow creeks and rivers and lakes to also have more water over a longer period of time. And it'll evaporate and create rain, or it'll sit there and create flooding. So depending on which climate you live in, take your pick. You're either going to wallow in rain or you're going to wallow in flood.
Care more, please. Just care more. Simple. I thought it was. I guess it ain't. If that's one thing I haven't learned in this life is we pick and choose when we are concerned and when we have a sense of urgency for something. How many of us have gotten lackadaisical, taking our foot off the brakes, enjoyed our amenities? You remember when things used to be 25, 50 cents, and then life just flashed before your eyes. Now everything is $10, $15 a box of cereal, and your eggs is $25, and like everything's like ridiculous. Just like that, everything just changed. Like I remember being a kid playing in the dirt, and you not thinking about solar flares and the earth crumbling beneath our feet. And I don't know. I honestly honor and respect your investigative tactics. I think your research matters more than people really understand. I think the mere mechanics behind it should be enough for people to be interested in it. No different than you buying your first car and you open up that manual. How many people really read the manual?
Very few, if any.
I didn't. I barely even read the manual. You know what I'm saying? So I think you apply that same logic with this, you will probably have a lot more respect and appreciation for the life that we have here on this planet. And it's not to say that you're going to change the entire populace with your view on how things should look, but your voice still matters to a subset of people. I would love nothing more than to see us recover and recoup from a lot of the loss that we've had. Like, we've already done a lot of damage as it is. It would be nice to kind of minimize it a little bit more while we can do it. You know? But that's just my 2 cents. I have a different level of understanding for the earth, volcanoes, all of it. I'm not playing around with anything. None of the elements, none of it. I'm going to treat it all with the same level of respect as I would want to be treated. I say you did an amazing job. Again, I mean, if anybody was just now tuning in or really just now trying to figure out what is she talking about, what is all of this going on, I would say you conveyed your message exceptionally. You can tell that you have a desire and a passion for it, and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your wisdom on these platforms. You know what I'm saying? I think this is worth its weight in gold. So I turn it back over to you. I'm gonna let you close out. Final remarks, anything you say to the people.
I was going to make a joke worth its weight in ice. I always enjoy that I have this space, partially because it makes me feel like I'm actually making a difference. One of the things that I found in my research was that the knowledge does help people make that transition. A lot of people want to care about the planet, they just don't know the things. And so once they are able to learn things, they're able to make more connections and kind of clue in, oh, that's how it's going to affect me. And so that's why I always enjoy being able to do this, because I hope that through this I'm able to actually convince people to care. A lot of people think that like you have to be an expert to care, but really you just have to be willing to have a curiosity for these things, and to be willing to absorb more information as it comes. It's also good because it saves my family members from me always being like, guess what? Do you want to see the new research about the Arctic? Like my family is always like, what got destroyed now? Like what town just got flooded? How much ice is melting now? I'm definitely that person to like send you the doom and gloom news articles. So it's good that I have a more constructive manner to share my passion rather than like hitting my family over the head with depressing news all the time. Since I can't decide, I actually have two poems that I want to share. The first one is specifically about the glaciers and the need for this ice. This one is called, where are you? In Retreat. Glacial meltwaters pour into the pot we left on the stove. Gas turned high. Its fragile reflections taste seawater with its icy lips, melting in angry wakes, kissing its life away as it slips into the glassy soup of brine and fish. The earth trembles daily, shuddering at the atrocities committed at her expense. Not yet boiling basins roil with anticipation, baking under a misunderstood sun. Heaven's white caps unravel like 100-year-old hats, broken in chunks and wisps, curling into the blue abyss. Even as we stamp our instruments into her bones, even as we watch her die, in our faces, on our phones, in our homes, guided by the numbers of the young and the old, there is stillness. There is nothing. And she waits. As the air in her face grows thicker and faster, she waits as we profit off the shores of her dying brains. Nothing but a stain in a textbook to the ones who will die. And we watch as she dies, taking her last breaths of methane as pieces of her skin shed, spinning off into our greatest excuse. This one reminds me of another fact that I wanted to mention. The Earth trembles daily. That is actually a direct reference to as the ice is melting, and with some of the breaking apart of this ice, it actually causes tremors. There was one ice sheet that collapsed, and it caused this shock wave essentially to cross back and forth across the earth like 9 times. And as we melt the ice, because of its weight, we actually shift the orientation of our earth. So not only are we affecting the earth we live in, but we're also affecting the earth itself and how it rotates and everything like that. And then what was the other part I wanted to mention? One of my theories is that a lot of these companies, a lot of these rich, wealthy, insert negative term, I swear that they want this to happen because, as we've seen from our president, as we've seen from other people, developers, rich people, oil companies, whatever, they want to take advantage of the Arctic. They're very excited for the melting of the Arctic and Greenland because there's a lot of oil there that they haven't been able to get. And so I have a suspicion that they're kind of allowing this to progress. That way they can take advantage of that land and get all the resources there. Because not only is there oil there, but there's gold. There is, I think, iron in there. There's silver. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. Oh, that's too complicated. What is it? Silicone, calcium, iron, aluminum, phosphorus, and then, as I said, gold, a lot of precious metals. So, yeah, they are definitely trying to take advantage of this land. And so this plays into the next, the last poem that I'll read. This one is called Floods of Denial, quite relevant. Tempests and torrential rains, missing birds and wilting grains, once with wisdom, now a stain, we are wounds to blessed terrain. Broken snowstorms, icy fractures, flowing valleys, deluge rapture, faking hopes with carbon capture, as we cook this land much faster. Deserts will take the grass's place, as forests shrivel across wider space. Beachfront homes will be displaced, as rivers surge and consume cliff face. As wistful addicts fight to acquire, praying flocks stay starved and tired. Trembling joints will point to the sky from altars gracing these lands of fire. Bright lights who chose not to sleep, students who became black sheep, scream frantically, denounce and weep as land and sea become trash heaps. Plastic leftover bits and strands, reinforced papered commands, leaders proclaim with hollow hands, spineless promises made out of sand. Unwilling to see faults in our lease, come the 10 plagues of disbelief, misguided counts on man's timepiece, while the greedy claim the rationed peace. Denying futures, rabid fact fleecers, sell our soul to the consuming creator. Burying ourselves one hole deeper, casting votes to the tech grim reaper. When cities aim to scorn their gods, curse their soils and kill the fog, submissively we slaughter odds of prevailing past our careless fraud. As we watch our earth decay, while experts estimate our fate, we could act without delay, yet we just doubt what they relay. Today we think we've earned our keep. We sowed a world privileged to reap. Broken words and actions cheap have consequences oh so steep. One day we will look back in rage, set back to a dark old age. The war we felt was right to wage will return us to our deserved cage.
Bang, 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 bang.
Well, I love Wednesdays, man. I love Wednesdays. Just for stuff like this. Just like Chef said, going down the rabbit hole. This is a piece of history. Whoever hears it, whoever receives it, I'm glad you could be here. I'm glad you could be a part of it. Beautiful poems, as always. Shout out to Chef. Shout out to Arcana. Shout out to Rob. Shout out to everybody who tapped in this evening for the show. Everything is straight. I will be back tomorrow morning. Yeah, back on schedule. The open mic is going to be on Friday at 8. So be on the lookout for that. And fingers crossed. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. If you got to get up in the morning, be safe on the road. Before you leave, do me a solid.
What's the goddamn button?
Appreciate y'all. Glad y'all can hang out with us.
Also, next time, Chef, I have a picture to show you. I haven't been able to find it yet, but I'll show you next time. It's a funny tinfoil hat joke. So
That's a bet.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I very much enjoy talking.
See you tomorrow. Y'all take it easy. All right.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Our muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, I didn't get it. If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines.